Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes, and today we're diving into the future of investing with my guest, Eric Chu, CEO of Tradesk. Eric has one of those incredible careers that stretches from engineering to Wall Street to hedge funds to CFO of a major venture firm, and now he's building what he calls the next generation investment platform. Think insider trading monitors, thematic investing bundles, recurring investments, and now AI-powered research and insights. Eric has raised over $12 million, spent years building the platform from the ground up, and he's on a mission to democratize finance for busy professionals who want to grow their wealth without drowning in complexity. This is going to be a fun and eye-opening conversation about where markets, AI, and investing are headed. Let's get into it, but first some business. This episode is brought to you by Kickcaster, the podcast booking agency that helps founders go on podcasts and tell their stories. Over 800 clients, CEOs, authors, entrepreneurs trust Kickcaster to land them high-impact interviews that drive revenue, followers, and investment. Imagine having a PR team that doesn't just chase headlines, but gets you in front of the exact audience through authentic, long-form conversations. That's the power of being a guest on the right podcast. If you're a founder and you're not leveraging this channel, you're leaving growth on the table. Go to kickcaster.com, apply in 30 seconds, and let's get you booked. That's Kickcaster by Moburst. Okay, everyone loves to talk about vision, the pitch, the funding round, but you know what gets zero love? The actual product build. That magical, terrifying phase where nothing works, the docs are out of date, and you've asked your dev team, how's it going, for the 47th time today on Slack. That's where Code Story comes in. It's a podcast for startup founders who know that building the thing is the thing. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes deep with tech leaders who've been through it, shipping real products, surviving messy launches, and figuring out what actually works and when you're on the edge of chaos. If you're building now or ever plan to, you'll want these stories in your earballs. Search Code Story wherever you get your podcasts or visit codestory.co, because founders talk vision, but builders tell code stories. All right, here we go. Eric, how are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Great to be here.
Nice. Now, quick question before we dive in. I've been flirting with this new fashion for the fall. I'm calling it Casual Friday Estes. So I've got the button up, but the all white button up, I kind of feel like I'm a waiter. Do you think this is a good attire for the podcast, or do you feel like I should be bringing you a bottle of wine?
Hey, a bottle of wine always works, right? Nobody would say no to that for sure. But, I think, clothing-wise, whatever you feel comfortable with, this is what I did today, fairly casual, sort of a business casual shirt. But, that's what I wear to work. That's, sometimes I wear to some events, so whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Amazing. And to that point, you're right. Everybody loves a good waiter. So if I'm coming in with hospitality energy, that's how I want to show up anyway.
Absolutely.
Eric, I really appreciate you being here. Give us a quick introduction to your company, Tradesk.
Absolutely. So Tradesk, we think we're the next generation investment platform. We pride ourselves in terms of technology, in terms of lower barriers to entry, because we have spent the last 4 years building up, essentially from ground up, a platform that incorporates a lot of the features, functions, tools that traditionally were only available to the money managers, to watch it guys. But over the last few years, we were able to put a lot of those in our platform in a way that is not overwhelming, very straightforward, very user friendly to the point that a lot of people can just sign on within minutes and then start using right away.
Amazing. So is it safe to say that this is a retail investing platform? I can go on, I can purchase stocks, I can purchase different investment vehicles?
Absolutely. So for now, we focus primarily on retail. Customers, once they onboard, once they deposit the money, they can start right away, purchasing stocks, options, buy and sell, ETFs, ADRs, all those stuff. And we're in the process of adding additional products as well as features. But also next step, we're moving a little bit towards the institutional side of things. But for now, we're more retail focused.
Incredible. In this kind of like explosion of like retail investing options, I feel like it's just democratizing capitalism in a way, like to your point, how has it changed? How has it become, how is your tool like enabling more people to get involved in the stock market?
Absolutely. So I guess I'll give you a little bit of a longer answer, longer story. So I myself used to be working on Wall Street, used to be a stock analyst, a research analyst. When I first started after business school, did that for a number of years, and also working on hedge funds, right? These are institutions, obviously, institutional money managers on the we call sell side or buy side, where, you have the smartest people with the best education working 14, 15-hour days. The objective of all those hard work, right, is to be able to do all those research on companies, on industries, so that we can put out those research notes to institutional money managers. Now, fast forward today, with some other products, some other platform, especially with ours, we are able to offer customers access that traditionally only available to those, institutional money managers. You can look up companies' fundamental information. You can look at the business information. You can look at insider trading monitoring. You can look at investment themes, right? A lot of different, very cool and very informative tools on our platform that people traditionally are only available, to the sort of institutional money managers.
Yeah, it's incredible. And walk us back a little bit. So you're working on Wall Street. You have a storied 15-year career. How did you have the how did you incept the idea for Tradesk, and how did that kind of move forward? How did you bring the idea forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess it went back to the origin of Tradesk, right? I'm actually an engineer in training originally. I did my master's degree in engineering and practiced a number of years in the industry. However, I found myself increasingly excited or more excited about investing, about, Wall Street, about stocks, to the point where I quit my job as an engineer and then went to do my MBA full-time at NYU Stern. And then after that, worked on Wall Street, investment banks, hedge funds, and later on became the corporate CFO of a very large venture capital with top private equity firms in the world. Now, fast forward to 2020, 2021, right? Everybody knows COVID hit. Everybody had a little bit extra time in addition to playing golf on the course. And also for me especially, I had a little bit more time reflecting of what I have done before as an engineer before, and also working on Wall Street throughout the tour. I think, and also talking to a lot of friends, families back then during COVID, right? When everybody had a little bit more time. I think increasingly what I found is thinking about before my Wall Street days, and also talking to my friends, the pain point for a lot of them is these are working professionals, right? They're very busy building their career at whatever profession they're in. They are very busy raising a family, raising their kids, and taking the kids to soccer practices, golf practices, what have you, right? But in the meantime, these are very intelligent people. They all want to do really well in their financial future, right? Either for college education, for their kids' college education, or for their own retirement. But they just don't find the time, the interest, or the knowledge to be able to do a lot of that. I think that's where kind of the Tradesk idea came together. A few founders that we put together, we debated, we discussed, and we think that building the next generation investment platform that would allow people, especially busy working professionals, to be able to access tools in a very efficient, very cost efficient, very friendly way that's not overwhelming. That's sort of the idea of Tradesk.
It's amazing, and that's so incredible. An engineer and MBA. As you were making Tradesk, did it feel like your worlds were merging? Did it feel very satisfying?
It does. I have to say it does, because we, as I mentioned before, we built the platforms from ground up, all the way from back end, all the technology, operations, to the front end, customer facing the app, right? A lot of features, functions, UI, UX, all those, right? It takes a lot of engineering to do. and also a lot of knowledge in finance, either trading, compliance, operations, what have you. So it takes all of those knowledge and experience and to put a investment platform together. I think my background, kind of I was able to leverage to a lot of my experience and my background as part of this sort of a building process for the platform. As a matter of fact, we have more engineers, with the company than the rest of all other departments combined. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, it's incredible. In the beginning, I'm sure there's a ton of compliance and security that have to go into this. Tell me about the beginning from idea until you actually ship the product. How much did you raise to get the thing off its feet?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few questions there. First of all, the easy one, right? It took us roughly about, $12, $13 million to in total capital to fund the platform so far. A lot of compliance, a lot of engineering. So as you know, we operate in a highly regulated industry, security services in the US. We are registered with SEC. We're also member FINRA and SIPC. So compliance is just part of the daily operations. It's actually a very, very critical part of the daily operations. Everything we do, in addition to acquiring customers, serving customers, to marketing, to operations, to technology, whatever you do, compliance is always part of it, just because of the industry that we operate in. So we spend a lot of time and money, and for a good reason, because we serve the retail customers. By definition, these are protected by securities laws, regulations, and those are the things that we have to follow.
Yeah. Amazing. 12, 13 million. And so is this what took 12 months? Is that what you said? Basically to get the product on its feet?
So we have a global footprint. We first actually started in the Asian market about 4 years ago. So it took us about 12, 18 months to get the product into production, because a lot of internal testing, a lot of the evaluation with regulators as required as part of this process. So once all of those are done, and also a lot of integration testing with clearing firms, with different vendors, we are essentially fully automated. So for AML, KYC, customer onboarding, depositing, and then after that, customer can start right away trading. Everything, all the processes are automated. So it took us a while to get through everything, get everything tested to a point that's we're ready to release to the production environment.
Cool. So it was really kind of the retail apps. It was Robinhood and Fidelity that got me into it in the beginning. Now, most of my investments have always come in the form of either real estate or startups. And believe it or not, I was like, stock market, too much to learn, too much to think about. But the apps and the ease of use is really what got me into it. So when you're thinking about your customer, how do you kind of differentiate between those platforms?
Yeah, very, very, very good question. So, every different platform has its own different focused approach. So I think for us, if you were to use the analogy of a student, right, we think we're not, elementary school student, we're not college student, we're somewhere in between, right? If you had used another platforms, for example, Robinhood, right, for a couple of years, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, they're a very good platform to get started, fairly easy, fairly straightforward. But once you do that for a couple of years, then you start to come across questions like, hey, what if I want to do a little more? What if I want to, dive into a little more of company's fundamental information, of the financials, right, of the news items, of the, sort of detailed moving pieces in the industry, right? So that's where, some of our customers, they start to look for a little bit more advanced tools, but not to the point where it's so advanced it's overwhelming, right? I would say some of the other platforms out there is they have, hundreds of products, right? Hundreds of features to the point that's just too overwhelming for average for the regular retail investor. But I think we have come across to a good balance of in terms of accessing the features that customer need, very commonly need, and also there's enough depth for customers to go deeper if they want to.
Yeah, this is, and I feel like I would be the perfect customer for Tradesk for a couple of reasons. One, I really enjoy learning about companies, investing in companies, and I love money. But also, I really need the education component. Typically, how I've invested in companies is, dump the big nut into mutual funds, and then give myself a little leeway. I'll just invest in my own P&L. I look at the tools that I use. I'm like, well, I'm going to use those. I'm tired of those guys already. And then the other way is I just ask my kids what they're into, like, hey, what apps are you using and things like that, because I figure that's what's coming around the corner. Now, a lot of that just comes from ignorance of like, boy, I just don't have the time to do the kind of research on the companies that align with probably my values is probably important to me, but also maybe my sphere of expertise, like tech companies and things like that are basically, I'm at least able to speak the language. And so I feel more confident investing in those companies. So when I'm thinking about using Tradesk to invest in companies, but also do the research on the companies, what is Tradesk providing for me?
Absolutely. So I think I briefly mentioned those. We have built quite a few very, very good features, very useful features. For example, insider trading monitoring. So for all the public listed companies, there are clear definitions of insiders, right? Either you're CEOs, CFOs, or core stakeholders, right? If you're an insider, you're trading the company's stock, by definition, per regulation, you need to disclose all those. And then we have built a tool that automatically tracks all those insider trades by all publicly related companies. Obviously, based on whatever companies you put on your watch list or in your portfolio, you can customize it to the point that's useful to you rather than being overwhelmed by, hundreds of notifications every day. So that's one very good tool. The other one is thematic trading, right? We're in a very new era of technology, either AI or crypto or aviation or EV, right? What have you? A lot of new things going on, a lot of new trends going on. We have built this tool, thematic investing. You can pick by industry, by theme, instead of picking individual companies where you don't, to the point where, or in finance theory, there's something called diversification, right? In layman's words, don't put everything in one basket. That's sort of follow the same idea. You pick certain investment theme where you can have the choice of investing in 20, 30 companies simultaneously rather than instead of picking one or two or try to pick the winners, right? Because, that takes a lot of work. It's just for most of the people, they just don't have the time to do that. But with this tool, you can then invest in a batch of companies to a certain industry that you're interested in. And we have actually coupled that with recurring investments. That's another idea that's built on top of finance theory. So instead of trying to time the market, right? Even the most renowned investor, Warren Buffett, says he doesn't know how to time the market. Frankly, nobody does, right? But with the recurring investment, you don't have to. And, you just put in a, threshold amount on a weekly basis or monthly basis or quarterly basis, whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever fits into customers' budget, right? And then you can put that into specific companies or into specific investment themes. And then the process, the app will does all the investment automatically for you, per your guidance, per your instruction. So I think those are, just to give an example of a few tools, features that would help average investors to be able to kind of, learn about the market and also kind of putting some things into action along the way. More exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. It seems like a lot of consideration has gone into people being a little bit of a novice with trading, which is like me, where, if I'm looking at CNBC or I'm watching the stock ticker, I'm looking at candlesticks, it's overwhelming and it freaks me out. what I want to do is have great signal like you're talking about. So if, there's some kind of inside mood from the CEO, okay, that may trigger action from me, invest in bundles where I can be like, okay, I really am into equestrian activities. So give me that equestrian bundle. I don't know why I'm investing in horses, but maybe I want to. So I think it's helpful for people to limit the amount of information, because obviously it can be a big information overload. And that's a little bit different maybe from people who are traders who, I've got a couple of buddies that everyone's got their algorithm and their theory of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But for most people, it really is going to be a consideration of how much information to give them and how you can kind of adapt to their behavior. How do you poll your customers? How do you learn kind of what customer demand is for the platform?
Yeah, so a few different approaches. For one, we have had customers on our platform already. So based on their feedback, they constantly give us feedback. So all those feedbacks are very, very valuable. We take them very seriously, either good or bad, right? So those are a very good direct source in terms of customer response, customer feedback. The other one is we do have a marketing program, a very comprehensive marketing program. We leverage search engines, affiliates, so on and so forth, right? And also AI as part of our marketing to attract customers, get access to customers. So just to give a few examples.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the marketing too, because the onboarding is pretty tricky, right? You got to get somebody onto the platform. You have to have them connect their their bank account, their credit card to make sure that everything's in place. There's like all the terms and conditions. There's quite a few steps people have to do before they get in. And all that's just predicated that they trust. I'm really happy that you take founder-led marketing really seriously. You're out front, and really, I think as a founder and CEO, especially in something like this, the essence of that trust is based on a founder who's going to go out there and throw the whole company on their shoulders and be like, hey, I got you. You got to do that. Now, when you're thinking about using AI, different platforms for marketing, what are ways that you build trust into the platform to get people onboarded properly?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few things. For one, it's kind of because, as I mentioned, we're operating in a regulated area, in a regulated industry. So by regulation, we have to follow very strict, industry regulations, either from SEC or FINRA. So this is, I think, first level of comfort. The other one is, I think, as you mentioned, so, I wanted to be upfront with customers, showing customers who we are, what we're about, what we have done. Finance, after working on Wall Street for, 15 plus years, I understand financial industry is all about trust, right? It's really, whether or not, you have done business with certain people, whether or not you have built the trust along the way. I think with customers, with retail customers, we wanted to provide, value to them. I think the first one, trust is the sort of the, all the way forefront on that approach. So I think, it's either by providing them with tools or features that they would not otherwise be able to access, and also provide sort of accurate information on our platform, be it, stock quotes or company news or, regulatory filings, what have you, right? That's a very, very important part as well.
Yeah. It's got to be interesting too, because you're an analyst and an engineer. So what's probably interesting to you about the market is much more, is much deeper than what, kind of a retail investor might want. What are some of the limitations you put on maybe the UI or the product itself, where you're like, boy, I would love to have this, this, and this, but let's make sure that it's not overwhelming. Is there something on your product roadmap that you're like, boy, if I built it just for me, I would add these things?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So as I mentioned, as a former research analyst, I used to spend 13, 14, 15-hour days, right? Working at an investment bank, digging into companies' 10Qs, the regulatory filings, right? The 10Qs, the 10Ks, the earnings transcripts, building financial models, talking to company management, right? And all those things today, very interesting. And for me personally, very exciting is can a lot of those very manual, repetitive work can be replaced by AI, right? A lot of the things, all you have to do is to put in a few prompts into the AI engine, which, by the way, we are in the process of putting one out by Tradesk. We're about, a month away from releasing a beta version of that. Super excited about that. But anyway, so once that, beta version of AI engine is available for customers, literally you have to put in prompts. For example, what's the competitor of Tesla, right? Give me the competitive advantage of Tesla versus, Rivian, right? Give me the most earnings summary highlights of Apple, right? Give me the last 3 months performance of my portfolio. Give me, just to give you a few example, right? All those things without AI needs a lot of manual work. You have to go in there, dig through a lot of the documents or build a model in order to do that. But these days, all those AI engine is able to do all of those for you. Now, for us as a platform, we have to put in a lot of checkpoints in order to provide, to make sure a few things. One, the information is accurate. And two, for us in the investment industry, more specific, we're not currently able to provide specific investment advice. Those are by regulation. So we cannot say, okay, buy this stock or buy that stock. So we have to but if customers do ask those questions into our AI engine, we have to have a certain way to sort of, ring fence those kind of questions. So, we're in the process of getting additional regulatory approval to be able to provide those services, but that would be a little bit down the road. But, back to your point, to your question originally, I think that would be something that I would be very much looking forward to. We want to be able to offer all sorts of customers our services, not only to look into specific companies' information, right? What we call self-directed trades, but also be able to manage customers' money at some point down the road.
Okay, I've got a confession. As a podcaster and founder, I'm constantly meeting incredible people, guests, listeners, or other entrepreneurs. But here's my little secret. I'm terrible at following up. My inbox is basically a graveyard of missed opportunities. Does that sound like you? You meet someone amazing, exchange emails, have great intentions, and then life happens. 6 months later, you're kicking yourself thinking, I should have stayed in touch with that person. This is exactly why I started using warmstart.ai. And honestly, it's transformed how I think about my network. Instead of letting relationships go cold, Warmstart analyzes my existing contacts and helps me identify who I should be reaching out to and why. It even writes the outreach messages for me. But here's the key. I review everything before it goes out. I'm not just talking about this because they're a sponsor. I'm talking about it because watching a healthcare executive use this to build his entire advisory board in one weekend with 4 CEO signups made me realize I was leaving money on the table every single day. Your network is your net worth, but only if you actually nurture it. Check out warmstart.ai, use code AIFF to get $50 off your first month. Stop letting your relationships turn into missed revenue. And there's so many opportunities to make really cool tools that are coming with AI. I'm really interested in the product that you're getting ready to release, particularly around the guardrails that you have to put in that, because, the way I'm using LLMs more and more is to kind of defer their creativity in place of mine. So as opposed to saying like, give me earning reports for Apple, it ask a contextual question. Like, do you think I'm leveraged too, considering what's going on in the news with Apple, am I leveraged too far in my portfolio with Apple stocks? Now, a response to that, is there like some kind of a compliance that you have to be careful with, that it's not indicating that you should make a trade or not make a trade, because then that gets a little bit dicey, right? Of like, okay, how is the LLM affecting, and what's kind of prompting is going into the back end of that to suggest or make recommendations. So how do you set up guardrails on kind of AI when people are going to create a kind of personalized relationship with it?
Yeah, those are some of the challenges we're facing, but also some of the opportunities, to be honest. So we have been working with a vendor that's specifically specialized in finance-related AI. So we are working very, very closely, testing this, as we speak, of all sorts of different scenarios, right? Related to how customers ask those questions and how the AI engine provide answers to those questions. And also how those questions, because we would be able to allow customers ask questions related to their portfolio, to your point earlier, how that portfolio is related to what's moving in the market, what's going on in the market. So we just have to be very, very careful that we are not, moving into those sort of, as the word they use, dicey sort of situations where we provide inadvertently provide investment advice. So these are, we have spent a lot of time on this new product, new feature. So AI, just like any other tool, right? They provide value to customers if they are useful, if they are used properly, and if they are designed properly. So that's kind of the things that we're going through right now.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a product request. I'm going to walk you through it, and I want you to tell me how close we are to making something like this happen. So I was kind of describing how I'm qualifying companies to invest in, which is like, my kid's 16, like, hey, what do you think is cool? And I say that because it's kind of silly, but also not a bad idea. Let's say it's a genius idea. So we're in the near future, and my glasses are recording everything. I'm seeing everything I'm touching. I want to be able to automate that every time my son mentions a company 4 or 5 times and I see it 3 times, that it's going to automatically start investing in that company $10 a month. Now, how far away are we able to do that? Because, okay, I'll start with that part of the question.
Oh, I don't think we're too far from that at all. It's really, I think the technology is there. It's available even today, but I think the challenge is because you're crossing over quite a few different areas, right? First of all, you would allow, there's privacy concerns, right? Because by taking that, words from people's casual conversation, you got to allow, take privacy into consideration, right? Is that allowed? Is that opt-in, right? So that's probably the biggest hurdle right now. The technology is there, the voice recognition technology is definitely there. So that's the first piece. The second piece is once you figure out that piece, the machine or your computer is able to take those pieces of information from people's conversations and convert them into essentially codes, computer codes, right? Then you would be able to put that into a investment platform to be able to generate those trades for people, either one-time trades or recurring trades, right? And then at that point, you gotta give people options, choices of what to do, right? How much to buy, what's the frequency, whether or not customers understand what they are about to put in terms of instructing the computer what to do. So there's that piece, and then finally, all these, as I mentioned, would be securities, right? So these would be 100% regulated by FINRA, by SEC. So there's a lot of compliance issues that need to be resolved and then reviewed and looked at before this becomes reality. But I think we're not that far. We're not that far.
We're pretty close, you know. And it's interesting because what AI is presenting, I think, is like a whole new interface for everything, of like how are we engaging with the world? And so I think part of my practice of like deferring creative capital to the machine, so to speak, is largely because it's going to know me better than me. It may never be smarter than me, although that wouldn't be too hard. But it's going to know me better than me because it has a sterile linear memory of everything that's happening, assuming that it's capturing everything that I'm capturing. Whereas I am distracted. I forget what I say. I double the things I say all the time. So like literally you could set up these kind of parameters to due diligence on companies just based on your own engagement with it. How is it coming to you? And I think this is going to be kind of revolutionary, largely because, financial investing comes from a very conservative background where it's like, I buy Johnson and Johnson because my grandfather bought Johnson and Johnson and we're Johnson and Johnson kind of family. But now you have much more adaptability. You have much more kind of maneuverability to use these tools as they kind of evolve. Now, of course, boy, the compliance for that seems pretty crazy. What are you excited that AI is bringing to kind of investing in financial markets?
Yeah, so I think for me personally, especially given my background, right, I think AI to me in the financial services industry, the most immediate impact would be able to substantially increase people's efficiency, be it doing research or looking at names, looking at companies, looking at portfolios, right? All those things that, again, used to be done manually by analysts, right? By investment bankers, by traders, right? On a spreadsheet, on whatever software they create. Now, all of a sudden, they all can be done fairly easily, efficiently, in AI through prompts, right? So I think that's the most exciting part. Just traditionally, all those access to those information would not be available to retail investors, to average investors who may have just a few $1,000s in their account, right? Because those were just thinking about the resources it would have taken for those money managers to be able to implement something like that before, say, even as late as 10, 15 years ago. It really takes a lot of resources and hence the privileged access for those kind of services. But today, with a fairly minimal amount of monthly subscription, you can, access to those same technology that investment and those, money managers have access to in a fairly, straightforward and easy way. So I think that's the most exciting part. And then, to be honest, I think we're still at the early innings of this game, right? Maybe the first or second inning. I've been in the sort of in the data center world for a long time. About 15 years, pretty much throughout my my years on Wall Street, on the sell side, buy side, or corporate side. As part of that, I got to see, the boom of internet, of mobile computing, of cloud computing, and now, we're at the fourth wave or fifth wave of, AI, crypto, right? I got to see all those, sometimes from boom to bust, a couple of cycles. But now I think we're really onto the next wave of sort of a technology innovation, revolution to some point. I mean, there's going to be a lot of new applications that will be built, right? After some of the basic functionalities that are essentially enabled by, by the AI infrastructure. AI data centers, AI infrastructure, basic technology, right? Once that's in place, a little bit more mature, I think you're going to see a huge boom in additional applications that would be able to leverage those AI technology more and more comprehensively.
Yeah, and the kind of user computer interface is just wide open terrain as we move into smart glasses and wearables and Neuralink that's going to be implanted in our brains. I mean, we're going into some wild times. It's really exciting. I want to ask you about your confidence in the LLMs in doing diligence. So like you're saying, it's the second inning, but kind of where you're standing. So if you're doing diligence on a company, now what's going into that is a whole lot of expertise, experience, which is to say you trust your gut. If you're coming up against kind of analysis from, let's say, ChatGPT that kind of goes against your gut feeling about a company, your gut feeling about the future, how do you reckon that? What's your next step?
A very, very good question. So, AI, as part of the reason why we're still in the early innings, right? It's because there is still certain issues, for example, hallucination, right, by AIs for one reason or another. There's that. And there's also sort of the compliance issues, right? The accuracy issues. We're not 100% there yet, although we're definitely moving in the direction. But in the meantime, I think use AI as a tool rather than as the perfect solution, right? Just like, Google when it first came out, right? You want to use Google as a tool to replace Yellow Pages, not as the perfect solution to do anything to give you the perfect answer. A lot of times, as we found out, it doesn't give you the perfect answer, but it gives you a very, very efficient tool to access information. Traditionally, it would take you too long to collect together, right? So I think this is the same thing for AI. Use that as a tool to collect basic information as the first step that traditionally would take you 3 hours to do, but now it's down to 3 minutes. But beyond that, especially if you're, looking at something very sensitive, very critical, very important, double check it, right? Use as another source. Use search engine to double check it. Use another AI model to double check it. But I think that's, it's a very, very efficient tool for people to be able to, increase their efficiency, at least at the current stage. But I'm sure, after a few years, we're going to get to the next level, we'll be able to provide more and more accurate, the solution, the answers to people.
Yeah, that'll have its downside, though. I mean, the contrary information is kind of nice. If I'm like asking, GPT about my diet, it's like, well, boy, if you want to lose a couple pounds, you should probably stop eating all that pizza. And I'm like, boy, this thing just can't stop hallucinating. It doesn't know what it's talking about. Amazing. I'm really interested, Eric, in the way that you choose companies to invest in. Maybe you could walk us through step by step the process you take in doing diligence on a company you're considering investing in.
That's a good question. So, as a former, equity analyst myself, this is what I typically do, right? You want to start from the basics. If this is a brand new industry, brand new company to you, do cover the basics. For example, in this scenario, you can use AI, you can use ChatGPT or other AI tools to get the basic information. What does the company do? Who are its competitors? Who are its customers? Who was the financial strength of the company? What company have done historically? How was the operating history of the company, right? Now, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, then I would say, diving into the financials, diving into the quarterly earnings. Has the company met its expectations in the last few years? Has the company's management been consistent? Has the company essentially done what the company said it's going to do, right? I mean, it's very important in the financial services industry, especially public companies, if they've done that they say they would, and especially and then under promise, over deliver, I think typically those companies are relatively, more solid companies. But I guess on Wall Street, the interesting part is everything is about expectations, right? Just as you think you have spent hours, right, weeks of doing fundamental research, right? Checking the downstream, upstream customers, financials, right? The 10Qs, 10Ks, it's all built in, right? The market prices have reflected all those information already, right? So that's kind of the interesting, but also the challenging part. Now, the opportunity is sometimes sort of take a quote from Warren Buffett, right? Sometimes you do have opportunities in the market where it's mispriced for one reason or another. Maybe the entire market is down and dragging down the company in a prolonged period of time to the point that the price itself offers you a big cushion in terms of potential risks, right? Everything is risk reward. If just so happen that, there are certain factors that temporarily presses down the company's shares, then I would say, that might be a better time to buy than company, a red hot company at the very, very peak. So again, what has been factored in the expectations versus, the reality? I think that's a tricky part.
Are there any kind of unconventional red flags that would unqualify a company you're considering?
I think the tenure of management team is a good one. If you see a company that constantly or fairly regularly changes its management, I think that's probably a potential red flag. Accounting firms, as a publicly listed companies, typically these companies rarely change accounting firms that do their books and audits. If you see changes there, that could potentially be a red flag. These are kind of a couple of things that kind of came to mind.
Yeah. This has been so cool. I just have a couple more questions for you. One is just kind of like your feeling on the future of the market. Now, it seems like the big tech companies are moving slower and slower towards an IPO. It seems to be the trend is to stay private longer, which absolutely drives me crazy because I would love to be able to invest in SpaceX. I would love to be able to invest in OpenAI. I mean, I don't know if that's a nonprofit or for-profit or what kind of happened there. But what do you see in the future? Are there ways that we can incentivize some of these big private companies to go public and give us retail investors an opportunity?
That's a good question. I think I'll answer that question in two ways, right? One is, a lot of these companies, some of these companies, they choose to stay private for a good reason, right? As a public company, you need to follow rules, regulations. You have to, for disclosure, for management, or 10Ks, 10Qs, all those, fun stuff, right? Some companies, they just choose not to go down that route. They would rather focus their attention on building the business, on growing the business, rather than spending the time and effort and capital on, say, meeting investors' needs. So I think that's one sort of consideration. I guess on the flip side of that question is more and more, I think smaller investors, retail investors can potentially access non-public companies, through crowdfunding options, right? Even including, on the crypto side of things, right? There could be some certain ways, for example, SpaceX, right? OpenAI, these non-public but very large companies. You can potentially access them in certain platform, right? Even though they are not yet private yet, they're not yet public. So these are sort of also involved with some of the modern technology, and also involves some certain newer regulations. So these are the things kind of for average investors to look out for.
Cool. Yeah, it would be nice, but we'll see. Amazing. Eric, where can people connect with you online?
Absolutely. So, we are, you can look us up on our company's website, www.tradesk.co. That's where, we have all the public companies, public information. Privately, you can, look me up and connect with me on LinkedIn. Just look my name up on LinkedIn. That will be, look forward to connecting with people.
Amazing. And I will link all that in the show notes for sure. You guys can just scroll down and click on that to check it out and get signed up with Tradesk. I hope you do. I know I'm going to. I'm going to do a little clandestine investing because my son's 16, but we've been thinking about getting him an account where he can make the picks and we can kind of follow the market together. I think this would be a great opportunity for that. And I'm really excited to check it out because from what I see, it's absolutely beautiful. And I'm just like a sucker for a great UI, so I'm really excited about it. Eric, where are you located?
We're based in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Central New Jersey.
Amazing. Well, if you ever come out to Denver, you got a friend in Denver.
Sounds good.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, Moburst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At Moburst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, Moburst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At Moburst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to Moburst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together.